Hello, I'm Nicholas Hansen, and I'm doing my presentation on Students for Justice in Palestine. The social movement organization Students for Justice in Palestine was founded in 1993 as a student organization on the UC Berkeley campus by a small group of students led by Osama Kasem. The group sought to advocate and organize for Palestine outside of the Palestinian advocacy student structure that already existed, which SJP considered to be factional and closed off. SJP was created to be independent of these pre-existing structures, open to all students, secular, and guided by general principles rather than strict doctrine. The group in its early days organized seminars and lectures to promote discussion around Palestinian issues and maintain an information booth on campus to disseminate relevant information about news, literature, and current events in Palestine. They would also promote Palestinian culture through exhibits, slideshows, movies, and literature. In the group's constitution, they outline three general principles that they advocate for, which are the right of the Palestinian people to have a homeland and self-determination, that the Palestinian identity is genuine and not diminished by the Palestinian people's dispersal, and that all people have rights to justice, freedom, and dignity. SJP would be critical of the Oslo Peace Accords, which were signed in the same year as their founding, sponsoring events that featured discussions around the accords. While active between 1993 and 1999, successful at organizing several rallies and events during that time, in 1999, the group's status as an official student organization lapsed due to not having enough students, 4 students being the minimum. This lapse in the group status would be short-lived, as the beginning of the Second Intifada would re-energize Palestinian activism. The group would be reborn in a sense in 2001, now led by Hatem Baizen. Starting in 2001, the group would call for UC Berkeley's divestment from Israel. In 2002, the group would occupy Wheeler Hall, resulting in the arrest of group members and the organization's suspension by Berkeley. In 2003, they would stage a mock die-in at Berkeley, and the group would participate in other dramatic demonstrations, including staging mock Israeli checkpoints. These demonstrations designed to get media attention and spark conversations around issues facing Palestinians. As the 2000s passed and SJP got more publicity for their bold and controversial demonstrations, students at other campuses began to form their own chapters of Students for Justice in Palestine. SJP would quickly grow and form a national chapter to facilitate the local chapters at various universities. The NSJP would hold its first national conference in 2011 at Columbia University, with an attendance of about 400 students. Since then, SJP has grown to have over 300 chapters at universities all across North America. It is important to mention that local SJP chapters all operate independently from one another. The National Students for Justice in Palestine just facilitates communication and coordination between them when necessary and organizes the national conferences. The description of the organization written on the registration form submitted to UC Berkeley in 1993 reads, quote, "This organization aims at informing the student body and the community at large of issues pertaining to the Palestinians and the Palestinian culture," end quote. The organization's constitution, also written in 1993, contains a purpose section that describes SJP as an advocacy organization that aims to promote Palestinian culture, assert their independent identity, and call for Palestinian self-determination. While these documents are over 30 years old now, the group's core mission, as described by the NSJP, is still in line with what was written in those founding documents. The current mission of the NSJP is to, quote, "promote an agenda grounded in freedom, solidarity, equality, safety, and historical justice," end quote. This agenda being related to Palestine and the cause of the Palestinian liberation. This aligns well with their original goal of informing students and the community at large about Palestinian issues and calling for Palestinian self-determination. The NSJP goes on to describe that part of its mission is to elevate the student movement for Palestinian liberation to a higher level of political engagement. And this is part of the SJP's mission. NSJP's mission shows that they are concerned with bringing attention to the issue and influencing stakeholders to call for and pass or change policy related to Palestinian issues. The first goal outlined by the NSJP is to continue to develop and uphold shared principles and values. These principles include the right of Palestinian people to have a homeland and self-determination, the alignment of the struggle for a free Palestine with Black liberation, gender and sexual freedom, and a sustainable planet, The NSJP's next goal is to engage the SJP network with political education, connecting theory to practice. This goal highlights the importance of using education on social movements and protest tactics to accomplish political goals. Their next goal is to create deep relationships with allies in the struggle for Palestinian liberation and engage in a joint struggle with partners across North America and the world. This goal highlights the importance of building coalitions and frame bridging, making the movement stronger and better connected. NSJP's last stated goal is to coordinate joint campaigns and actions across the SJP network for key issues. This goal highlights the importance of resource mobilization to the movement, seeking to be able to mobilize their chapters in support of pressing issues. SJP chapters engage in a wide range of strategies and tactics to accomplish their mission and goals. Some passive tactics aimed at educating those about Palestinian issues that SJP employs are teach-ins. Teach-ins are an informal lecture or discussion about a topic of interest, this for SJP being Palestinian issues. SJP also distributes and recommends literature about Palestine and Palestinian issues and shows films that cover the issues that Palestinians face. SJP's main strategy at this point seems to be engaging in a BDS campaign at universities across North America. The BDS strategy is aimed at getting universities targeted to boycott Israeli businesses and any businesses that profit off of Palestinian suffering, divest from the same group of businesses covered in the boycott. The sanction component of the BDS strategy is aimed at policymakers rather than university boards, and calls for government entities to sanction Israeli businesses profiting off of Palestinian suffering and the state of Israel itself. The BDS strategy gives the group a clear goal. And the tactics that they use to accomplish this goal include several methods of protests and demonstrations. Protests and demonstrations are primarily aimed at getting media attention, bringing light to the issue that the protest is highlighting, and showing the university administration and policymakers that people care about the issue. SJP is creative in their protest tactics. They stage sit-ins where they occupy an area on campus and refuse to leave, usually resulting in the arrest of some protesters, bringing further attention to the demonstration. Similar to a sit-in, SJP also organizes die-ins, which consist of protesters lying down, appearing dead, attempting to mimic the appearance of dead Palestinians, provoking a viewer to think of those dying in Palestine. SJP has also conducted demonstrations in which they erect a mock apartheid wall. This is meant to resemble the walls around Gaza and the West Bank. They have also organized fake Israeli checkpoints on campus, harassing actors who pretend to be Palestinians going through the checkpoints. Both the wall and checkpoints are demonstrations unique to protesting for Palestinian liberations, as they are direct recreations of the challenges that the Palestinian people face. Recently, SJP has been organizing encampments on university campuses, creating what is essentially mock Palestinian refugee camps where protesters set up tents and camp on a central part of campus until forcibly removed. SJP also engages in traditional tactics such as marches and mass demonstrations using signs, banners, and megaphones. All these tactics are aimed at pressuring universities to give in to their BDS demands, gaining media attention, and exposing people to Palestinian issues. SJP was the primary organizer of many of the encampments on university campuses throughout April and May. The encampments have since died down as graduation passed and the encampments were cleared out by police. However, the group is still organizing and mobilizing members to make encampments and support encampments in the face of intervention by law enforcement. The NSJP Instagram account called for the mobilization of activists to Wayne State University on May 30th, ahead of police dismantling their encampment there. The NSJP account also posts videos of encampments being raided by police, calling out the excessive use of force on activists. In addition to organizing and supporting encampments, the NSJP also recently assisted in the organization and participated in the People's Conference for Palestine. This was a conference which ran from May 24th to May 26th in Detroit, Michigan, and was organized and attended by several Palestinian activist groups. It featured several speakers, panels, discussions, vendors, and celebrations of Palestinian culture. The NSJP also posts news regarding the status of ongoing BDS campaign, indicating whether or not student bodies or boards voted in favor of divest referendums. The Harvard Palestine Solidarity Committee, a group associated with the NSJP network, organized a walkout during their commencement ceremony on May 23rd. The most recent event regarding SJP is Columbia University's third encampment, which went up on May 31st, and as far as I know, it is still ongoing. This is a timeline of Columbia's 3 encampments. However, it's debatable whether the first 2 are actually separate ones. It was more just a continuation of the first one after mass arrests. A known future SJP event is a demonstration at the White House organized by several Palestinian advocacy groups called Shut It Down for Palestine. I first saw this on the university, or rather the Ohio State University's SJP chapter page on Instagram as they were organizing the bus rides. I saw it. And I have since seen it on other SJP chapters, such as the DMV SJP chapter. And they have organized transportation from all around the country, mobilizing, well, not all around the country, mostly Midwest and East Coast to DC to protest the 8th month of the war in Gaza. While it is hard to gather who exactly is a part of SJP, some generalizations can be made through a combination of examining the demographics of pro-Palestinian protest, videos of SJP encampments, polls on Palestine, and other groups in coalition with SJP. Most of those who are involved in SJP are college age, being from 18 to 22, 24. This is in part because of their nature as a student organization. According to the Pew Research Center, 18 to 29-year-olds are the age demographic most sympathetic to Palestinians. The vast majority of SJP members fall into this demographic range. The diversity of SJP membership and protests is wide-ranging as they have built strong coalitions with Black, Native, feminist, and queer activist groups. The protests are attended by all genders and most races. It is hard to tell the nationalities or ethnicities of those in the group, but it is clear that Palestinian diaspora is present and vocal in the group. From watching footage of SJP encampments, it was clear that white, Black, Middle Eastern, and Latinx peoples were represented. The group and its members lean to the left politically, and this aligns with polls conducted by Pew, in which 76% of 18 to 29-year-old left-leaning individuals had a favorable view of the Palestinian people. Their occupations are unknown, but it is likely, given that most are students, that some may be unemployed and some work part-time jobs in the service or retail sectors. The group has informal leadership. There is no national chapter. Well, but the national chapter has a steering committee that decides general policy, but there is no leader. There is a national chapter, and they do have a steering committee, but there is no leader of the national group. There's no like president of SJP overall. They have a decentralized structure with each chapter running independently with its own leadership, with chapters usually being headed by their chapter president. So you see, there is not a head chapter president like for the national group. There is chapter presidents within the individual chapters on the individual campuses. And they have their own, and each SJP chapter has their own policies and practices, and sometimes their views can actually range quite a bit from chapter to chapter. The group has grown from 190 chapters in 2017 to over 300 chapters as of June 2024. The group can draw protests from 10 people, 10, yeah, just 10 people sometimes. Sometimes when they post on Instagram for mobilization, they just say just 12 people to a couple of thousand people, just like the Shut It Down for Palestine, which is going to be a couple thousand people at least. And this depends usually on the size of the university they're based in and the membership in the particular SJP chapter. The total membership of all SJP chapters is unknown, but it is likely over 10,000 members in all. if you take their reported number of 300 chapters at least, and you theorize that they have at least 33 members per chapter, which is probably an underestimation, then you get 10,000 easily. So they have a wide membership. All right, these are my sources real quick, but stick around, I have more. All right. And then I'm going to put these links in the discussion text portion, so that way you can click on it. A lot of it is Instagram and YouTube videos showing examples of demonstrations or actions or news stories covering SJP. We also have the toolkit that they posted, a timeline of the Columbia encampments, the National SJP website, two websites regarding the Shut It Down for Palestine protests on the 8th. I have the website from the People's Conference for Palestine. I have a PDF which is a guide of protesting for Palestine on college campuses. And then on this slide, I just have a bunch of relevant Instagram pages for SJP chapters, including some of the more active ones, as well as some in our area. All right, thank you very much for watching. I hope you all learned something.